Welcome to Learn the Sword. There is just a whole bunch of information on how to draw and sheathe the sword. Matter of fact, a lot of systems are around how to sheathe the sword correctly. Of course, we've been learning practical application, but practical application sometimes is okay, but sometimes theatrics makes it a little bit more interesting, makes you look like an expert. But if you start dealing with the average sword master, they don't do anything fancy. Anything over 50 years old, they don't do fancy at all because it's their past their stage. They're in a different set of maturity. The smoother it is, the happier they are. If it's really nice and flashy and everything, that's what they did back there when they were 25 or 30. And then all of a sudden they started doing hundreds of thousands of sheaths and they started polishing down. And by the time they hit 40, they weren't doing theatrics as much. They were just putting the sword away because whatever was the most important thing was the cuts and how to get from target from A to B. Whereas putting away the sword, no one was around to see it because, hey, they should have been eliminated by then. So there's different thought processes. What I'd like to think about today is how to theatrically put away a sword and look good. And you're thinking, well, am I going to swing it around and make it look fancy? No, we're going to do something real simple. Let me grab an Iaito. Like this one. I've been using this one just because it's nice and simple, and if I have a simple one, you can use yours too. Now, in some of these draws and cuts and fancy ways to put away the sword, you go, well, my sword's too light, it doesn't do it. Or my sword's too heavy, it just doesn't work as well. Remember, it doesn't really matter what sword you use. It really doesn't. It just matters how you manipulate it in your hand, because one sword will work a little bit better compared to another, or you have to keep the hand loose, or you have to work it in that way, just to let you know. So, bringing the sword and bring it on the side here like this, I'm going to draw the sword, go in front into a center stance, adjust my sheath, and now I'm going to do this. Did you see how that worked a little bit? I went 3/4 of a turn. Let me bring it around this way, and you've seen this before. There's a full turn. And then you go, well, I've seen it like this, and I've seen it with my fist. There's lots of different ways to do it, and you've seen these on some of these old samurai movies where they come in, they finish the cut, they go over here to a center stance, and they come in here to an 80% turn. Bring it on an angle so they can take it this way and sheathe the sword. So you don't have to take the sword and flip it 360 degrees. You want to flip it where it falls into your pattern, and you can sheath it a lot easier, just because you might as well take off those rough edges. So, what is the best way to turn the sword when you sheath it? Well, what we've discovered is that if you keep your left hand a little too tight, it isn't going to work. So what I'd like you to do is, remember, keep a nice loose grip on the back of the sword, especially when you're going to flip it. Now, when you flip it, how do you flip it? Well, as a general rule, you're going to take your hand like this, and you're just going to pull it along really fast like this. That's all you're doing. You're getting it caught in here, and you might even bend your fingertips or just turn it into a little bit like this. So when you do pull on the sword, it starts going like that. See how that is? Even though holding it at that angle doesn't work too well, but back down at this angle, here I am here, and see where my left hand ended? I pulled this up so much, it's sort of like pulling a little gas Bridgestone engine, like this. That's all I'm doing. Or moreover, a chainsaw. Sometimes they're not really working, or you're out fishing in the motorboat and it isn't working, you're pulling it like a crazy person. Well, keep your elbows in, keep your fingers like this, pull it tight like this, and at the same time loosen up your left hand so you can turn it. See my hand, it comes back up here? Eventually you'll be able to pull it back to here, but right now if your hand ends up like this, no problem, because now come back down on it and hit it. And then from here, you can do all sorts of stuff. You can take it into reverse and then put it away that way. That's what I'd like you to start working on a little bit. This will give you a little bit more dexterity. So let's begin here in a center stance and bring it here, center stance. And if it doesn't go all the way around, if your hand doesn't fit in perfectly, neither does mine 100%, and neither did my teacher's, because we're only human. So if you make a mistake every third time, hey, don't worry about it, because after doing it about 1,000 times, you'll be able to be pretty consistent then. Here we are here, breaking my hand like this, and now, you noticed again, you have to make sure that backhand works well. There. See that? Now you can go over and you can even try it. If you start getting pretty good at this, you can, like a skateboard, you can go 360, you can go a little bit more. Let me go a little bit more, and that's only 360. Well, I'm not as young as I used to be. Nevertheless, practice this over and 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 over again until it becomes smooth and consistent. From there, we'll start worrying about where the cut is. For example, I cut down, I cut up, I cut down, I'm at an angle here, I bring it around, put my hand down, and I put it away. There are lots of ways to work off these basic fundamentals. Try it.